Now, the reason that we are beginning here, we know many of you have been listening to us for a while. And you are aware of law of attraction. You are aware of the vortex. You are aware that you were source energy before you came into this body, and that this environment has caused you to ask for all kinds of improvements, which source is now also in vibrational concert with. You know that when you continue to beat the drum of a problem long after source is completely embodied in the solution, that your attention to the problem just holds you apart from the solution. You get that, and we've been talking with great deliberate emphasis in order to help you realize consciously the two vibrational aspects of that which you are. But today, we think it is of enormous value for you to simplify your whole understanding of deliberate creation and of the art of allowing and of law of attraction and of the vortex. We think it would be really practical and beneficial to you if you would decide for the next 30 days to consider your point of attraction. What is in my physical body, what is my point of attraction? When we talk about you being the creator of your own reality, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about you giving your attention to something. And because you're giving your attention to something, you're offering a vibration which equals your point of attraction. It's such an interesting thing to watch these people in the Gulf of Mexico who want more than life itself to stop that gushing oil well, who are attempting to do so in an avalanche of not well wishes. If there were ever an impossible thing going on, it is that. Because how could anyone buck the current of ill intent? How could anyone buck the current of the not well wishes, of the blame pointers, and of the victims? And we're not saying that all of that isn't valid and all of that isn't real. We're just saying that you can't buck your own current. In other words, when you are worried about a problem, and the problem is what you're focused upon, and as you focus upon the problem, it consumes your point of attraction. Even though the bigger the problem gets, the more of a solution you ask for, you hold yourself away from the solution as long as you are focused upon the problem. And it's such an interesting thing that CNN clearly does not understand. MSNBC clearly does not understand it. Fox News, ABC, NBC, CBS, they clearly do not understand that you cannot focus upon the what I don't want part of the equation and get what you do want. And so it's such an interesting thing as millions of people are focused tenaciously, hour after hour, minute by minute, on a problem and railing and writhing and suffering and pointing and blaming and condemning and beating the drum of we don't want this and we shouldn't have gotten this and how did this happen and this should never have happened. As a global society, you are holding yourselves in vibrational opposition to a solution that is already in the vortex of creation. Now, many would say, show us the solution. Show us the solution. And we just want you to understand that anytime a problem is coming into focus, a solution is coming into focus too. This isn't just a solution coming into focus about how to stop a gushing oil well. This is a solution about global ecology. This is a solution about the economy relative to the fuel or the energy industry. In other words, there is so much more going on at the bottom of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico. There is so much more going on than just a gushing oil well. That is the manifestational result of a chaotic energy around the subject of ecology, global warming, around the subject of economy, oil, around the subject of ecology, oil versus solar versus natural gas. In other words, there have been billions of people who are in on this process, who know what they don't want, who know what they do want, who are all part of everything that happens on the planet today. Now, it may feel overwhelming as you watch something that you clearly can't do anything about. And what we want to say to you is, manage your own point of attraction. You must manage your own point of attraction. So as you watch those television programs and you are paying attention to the way you feel as you are watching them, a feeling of interest means you're still in the vortex. A feeling of anger means you're right out of the vortex. A feeling of blame means you're out of the vortex. A feeling of hope means you're hovering on the edge of the vortex. But what we are saying to you, we are not wanting you to manage your point of attraction in order to fix what's going on there in the Gulf, because what's going on there in the Gulf is a global consciousness creation that is in the process of finding solution. And it is our promise to you that the solution is forthcoming, and that the long-term ramifications of this will not be as death-defying as many are pointing them out to be. In other words, it's going to be all right. Really, it's going to be all right. Really, it's going to be all right. Really, it's going to be all right. But what's going on there is really beside the point that we are making here. The point that we are making here is it's time for you. And maybe that's another big benefit of this problem that is giving birth to a solution, because every time a problem is coming into focus, a solution is too. You must come round to finally deciding that you are going to manage your own point of attraction, which means you have to adjust the way you think and therefore feel about everything. Because the way you think and therefore feel about everything equals your point of attraction. It doesn't matter if you're angry because of something that you can't do anything about in the Gulf of Mexico. You're still messed up your point of attraction. You're still denying things that you want because of your vibration being tuned out of sync with who you are. It doesn't matter if you're upset because of something that's happening to your neighbor or to one of your children or to your parents. It doesn't matter how close or how removed the subject of your negative turmoil is. Negative turmoil going on in you is an indicator that your point of attraction is messed up. Your point of attraction is off the beam from who you are. And if you don't care about your point of attraction, if you're more interested in joining the clamoring of the blamers or the finger pointers on any subject in the world, whether it's a bad baseball call, or whether it's something going on with your ecology where the shores of your Gulf Coast are being covered in oil. It does not matter how justified you feel you are in your negative emotion. And we want to say to you, friends, we have never ever seen one of you in the midst of strong negative emotion that you weren't justified in it. Because you don't want those things to happen. And when you feel bad, it's because you're looking right at something that you don't want to happen, or you don't want to have happened. We just want you to know that all you can do anything about is your point of attraction. And that's not just an all you can do. It's everything to you. Because if you learn to manage your point of attraction, if you learn to manage the way you feel by being positive aspect oriented, if you learn to manage the way you feel by being selectively sifting on the subjects that you focus upon, if you care about how you feel and you learn to train yourself subject by subject, thought by thought, into vibrational alignment with who you really are and what you really want. If you learn to train yourself into vibrational alignment with the way the source within you sees, then you are doing what you intended to do. You are managing your point of attraction. There's no assertion. Nobody is doing anything to you. Nobody is doing anything to you. And you want to say, but wait, there are things happening to me that I know I'm not asking for. So if I'm not asking for them and they're happening, then it seems like somebody else is doing it to me. Seems like somebody else did it. And therefore, I want to point my finger of blame. And we say, we know it seems like somebody else did it because you don't want it, and you, in a very core place, believe that you wouldn't do bad things to yourself. Especially when we say you create your own reality. You say, well, that doesn't make sense. I wouldn't do that. I didn't want that. I wouldn't do that. And we just want you to know that you're doing it. You just don't know you're doing it. You're doing it by default. You're doing it because you're not tending to your point of attraction. You're doing it, frankly, because you have become willing to endure negative emotion. You're willing to put up with it. You're willing to feel the emotion of blame. You're willing to feel the emotion of blame, which means you're not tending to your point of attraction. You're willing to be angry, which means you're not tending to your point of attraction. You're willing to be afraid. You're willing to be frustrated. You're willing to be overwhelmed. And many of you think, well, it's not that I'm so willing. It's like I don't think I have a choice. Like my overwhelmment seems like an economic problem or just a function of too many kids or too much to do. My overwhelmment seems like it's happening to me. And we say your overwhelmment is a byproduct of the 2 vibrational vantage points, period. It's never about what you think it's about. What you think it's about is only the reason that you're focusing your energy out of whack. And you have the ability to focus your energy back into whack. You do. You can focus yourself into alignment. You can. But you got to care about how you feel, which means you got to care about your point of attraction, which means you got to care about how you feel, which means you got to care about your point of attraction, which means you got to care about how you feel, which means you got to care about your point of attraction. Which means you got to care about your point of attraction, your point of attraction, your point of attraction, you're doing it to you, your point of attraction, you setting up vibrations, which law of attraction is responding to, your point of attraction, your point of attraction, your point of attraction, your point of attraction. We think we need to make this point. It's your point of attraction. It's your point of attraction. No one is doing anything to you. No one is doing anything to you. You observed things happening and you train yourself into vibrational habits. That's what beliefs are. It's just a habit of thought. You train yourself into those patterns, and those patterns equal your point of attraction, but nothing happens to you outside your point of attraction. Esther made her placemat process this morning, and she only put a few things on her side of the placemat. Everything else she put on the universe's side of the placemat. She loves delegating and releasing to the universe. And as she was putting the items on her side of the placemat, do you know some of the things that she did not put on her to-do list were, keep my blood pumping through my body effectively today. She didn't put that on the list. Now you'd think it would be a big thing, given how important that is. She did not talk about the aspects of her body. She did not talk to her nose and ask it to smell appropriately today. She did not counsel her taste buds. In other words, she didn't ask her liver to function well. She did not address any of the organs of her body. Can you imagine someone that lackadaisical in her things to do today list? She didn't put sun come up. She didn't put earth continue to spin in its orbit. She didn't put any of those things that are so essential to every moment of every day that you live. We think that you want to give it to us that the well-being is bigger than the problem in your bank account, or the well-being is bigger than the problem with the oil gushing in the Gulf. The well-being is huge. It's enormous. There is no way of even comparing. And we want to say this to you because we want you to feel the bigness of the well-being that is the counterpart of this vibration that you are offering. In other words, 2 vibrational aspects playing off of one another all the time. Well-being is winning no matter how pessimistic you are. Well-being will prevail.